Welcome back. You're watching Metropole Television. This is your official sector trends. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Now, the real estate sector has increasingly become a key pillar in Kenya. However, in recent years, the real estate prices have risen rapidly, with home prices increasingly sharply in comparison to prices of goods and services in other industries. At the same time, housing demand has posed an economic and social challenge around continental and universal concerns. Developing our infrastructure is important for faster economic growth in the country, and so much of greater boost in the real estate sector growth. Today, we're looking at how infrastructure development is important in boosting real estate growth in the country. And joining us, we're joined by Washuka Beatrice, who's a real estate analyst, Superior Homes. And just before we cross over to her, let's look at the data set that we have for you here this morning, so that now we can put this proper conversation into context. Now, if you look at the value of building plans approved from Nairobi City Council, and we're looking at all the way that to Q2, and you will see there was that sharp drop in a Q2, but in Q1 of February, again, that's one area that we're looking at. Again, in 2019, you will see that they did actually jump. All right, let's cross over to the next data set that we have for you this morning as well. Now, those are private buildings plans that have been approved by Nairobi City County all the way from 2016 again to 2018. You can see residential is the one that is really leading that front in terms of the ones that have been approved. And then if you look at them, non-residential are the ones that are trailing in that category as well. Next data set, if you look at the bank's credit real estate sector in the country, then you will say that it has been increasing. This looks like a potent area where majority of the banks have been pushing their money to. And if you look at that, we're giving you all the way from January 2020 to October 2020. You will see that indeed, even despite the economy being within the grips of the coronavirus pandemic, the banks really lent to the real estate sector in the country. Beatrice, good morning.
Thank you, Simba. Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you around. Let's start by just taking a general outlook on the real estate sector. I mean, we've been correcting since 2018, but then we went into the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. How are we looking at in 2021? What is the general outlook?
Thank you, Simba. Sector, just like any other part of the or edge of the economy, was really affected by the pandemic last year, and so we had a decline in property in returns, mainly the capital appreciation, and even the amount people are able to get from rental income. However, coming into 2021, I think we've learned to live with the pandemic, and we've seen the government even at some a few incentives just to cushion people in the country. And so we've seen the economy slowly, and this has also had an impact on real estate.
Yes.
So at the moment, we're seeing slight improvement in terms of performance. So we would say capital value appreciation has begun to pick up. So gradually, expect this to continue picking up throughout the year as the economy we get better, or we get over the pandemic, especially now that we have the vaccines and business is able to track.
So if you look at that data this morning, Beatrice, you will see that in terms of the areas that are sort of growing even within this pandemic is the non-residential segment. Is that it? Especially when it comes to what has sort of driven the real estate sector? Is it just the non-residential segment, or there are other little segments that have really ridden the effects of the coronavirus pandemic?
So first of all, if you were to look at it from a sector or a theme perspective, this is where we look at the residential space.
Yes.
If you look at the residential front, we had a decline in demand for property in the high-end, and we had people focusing more on the affordable segment because of the reduced income, and everyone is in a rush to get a home. I think with people working, schools closed, then everyone has seen the need spacious home, and given the low income or the low disposable income among majority of citizens, then the demand has shifted to augment. So we've seen people focusing more on that. For the high-end markets, there's still demand, though not very previously. This is because it's only by a segment who have quite a huge disposable income still at the time. When you look at the retail sector, we saw this, because there was then reduced footfall and reduced consumer purchasing power. Most of online platforms, because then you just need a storage facility and delivery. So we saw most of these leave their physical spaces, and thus we high vacancy rates. Coming in, one would say there's been a slight improvement on that, and we've seen some retailers such as Carrefour still expanding.
Yes.
They're taking up spaces, but they're taking spaces left by struggling retailers. So it's some are in, others are stepping out.
Yes.
Looking at the official office space, this has been the most affected, not even by the pandemic, even before the pandemic. We've always noted that there's very high supply of retail of space, and this has been at around 7 million square feet, especially by 2019. And this has been growing over the years. Come the pandemic, then we've had businesses closing down or scaling down, which means then more empty spaces when it comes to office. So office is yet to pick up. It's going to take a while, because even after the pandemic, even if businesses get back on track, first it will take a bit of time for businesses to actually get all the employees maybe reinstated, or even expand, take up more space. And given that we already have excess space at the moment, take a bit of time before we can see, we can have a clear front when it comes to the office spaces. So that's the outlook for all the things, I would say.
Yes, but I want to touch on that area for the office space. I mean, the conversation was that there was an oversupply of office space within the economy. Now we go to the coronavirus pandemic. It was made worse since majority of companies really have adopted this remote sort of working adjustment. People say we have to wait until upwards of 2024 for that for that particular segment to fully correct. Do you share the same sentiment?
Yeah, I share the same sentiments, because it's going to take a while.
Yes.
The office space will only recover in the long term. Best case scenario in the mid term, but I don't think so. We have to wait for the long term, because if you look at the office spaces that we have,
yes,
it's a lot of space. And if you see there's working from home, we're not sure how long this pandemic will take. Some organizations have adopted working from home on a permanent basis. So then we'll still see a bit of struggle in that. However, if you look at the current development, we have very little construction works going on for office spaces.
Yes.
Then that might save the sector, because we don't have a lot of incoming supply at the moment. There's reduced spending on that front. So we will take a bit of time to absorb the current supply, but on the brighter side, we don't have much incoming supply at the moment. So then we might not have such a big
Well, we seem to have lost Beatrice there towards the end. Beatrice, can you confirm whether you can get me?
Thank you.
Yes, can you get me, Beatrice?
Yes, I can now. I can.
Fantastic. All right, let's therefore move into the conversation this morning, Beatrice, which if you look then at the conversation we're having this morning, it therefore means that for anybody getting into the real estate sector, you have to be quite intentional on exactly who you're targeting and how you're getting into that space. Case in point, Beatrice, let's speak about Superior Homes this morning. What are your offerings? And who are you targeting, especially in this 2021 period, where we're saying that this is a sector trying to correct?
Thank you, Simba. So for Superior Homes at the moment, just a minute. The river. This is where we sell residential homes.
Yes.
Standalone houses, bungalows, mansionettes, and villas. And we have a project in Vipingo, Pazuri, where we sell villas as well. For these two projects, we've really looked at accommodating the middle income earners and the high-end income earners, especially if we look at the river project. We've tried to offer adequate space for family setups at a very affordable or relative friendly rate. We have units going for as low as 9 million and as high as 37 million on the high end for the villas.
Yes.
So we've tried to accommodate families, especially for that project, in the outskirts of Nairobi. So it's very accessible, especially if we're working within the CBD or these major business nodes. However, it offers you space, enough adequate space at an affordable rate outside. So we try to target the family setups, especially with that project, on the affordability side and in terms of what we are offering in terms of space. For the Pazuri project, our main idea is to have it as holiday homes. So in this case, then we are looking at high-income earners. However, anyone who would want to buy it for residential is also welcome. So
yes.
The units go for around 16 to 19 million, depending on the size. We're also looking, we're not done with the development, so we also have an expansion strategy in place where we're still looking at offering even more affordable homes within the outskirts of Nairobi. So we're looking at outside areas such as Ruiru, we are looking at areas such as Rongai, where people are looking for housing outside the CBD, which are more affordable and offer relatively bigger spaces for family, for larger households.
Yes. So if you look at the uptake so far, especially on this flagship project that you're talking about this morning, Beatrice, would you say that indeed, from the uptake numbers that you have right now, that's where it is headed in terms of real estate investment in the country? And I'm very specific in a 2021.
Yeah, if you look at the current economy, people are looking for affordability above everything else.
Yes.
It's one thing, it's one thing to want to own a home. It's another thing to afford a home, especially within the Nairobi metropolitan area.
Yes.
It's looking at a high demand for housing amidst reduced income or very little disposable income. So the idea is to be able to provide affordable people in the middle class and people who don't have very high disposable income, so our idea is to provide units that don't go above 10 million. It might look it might look high for some of the Kenyans, but if you look at what offering at the moment, 10 million and below is hard to find. You're going to look, getting a 10 million unit is very affordable units that are accessible, especially to the working class within the Nairobi CBD and the neighboring business nodes such as Westlands. We're looking at people working in Upper Hill, Kilimani. So the idea is to accommodate them in the outskirts of Nairobi by providing them with affordable housing units.
Beatrice, let's talk about infrastructure this morning, which we know is very important to the growth and development of the real estate sector in the country. And we do know the government has been big on this. I mean, we have a lot of bypasses now. We have a lot of road network expansions in the country. Would you say that to a greater extent has even supported some of the decisions that you're making as Pazuri on exactly where your flagship projects are going to be?
Simba, if you look at what are the selling points when it comes to real estate,
yes,
when people are selling to you a house or a piece of land, what are you as a buyer? What do you look for? You're looking for the roads, you're looking for water connection, you're looking for electricity, you're looking for a railway station, maybe, or a railway line in the area. So when it comes to infrastructure, it's a big selling point when it comes to real estate. It's a big consideration for buyers. So when real estate developers then are looking into places to invest in, they're very keen on where the infrastructure or these amenities are, because those are the selling points. This is what people are looking for. It'd be very hard if you were to sell a house that has no access. You can't get there by road, you can't get there by air. So it becomes very hard. So for all these projects, especially for Superior Homes, then we're very strategic when it comes to where we have our projects.
Yes.
Are they accessible? Do we have these amenities? Do we have water connection? Do we have electricity? Do we have sewer line? And if not available, then what cost is that? Do we have, because it's an added cost if there's no sewer line, then does that then compromise the value or the pricing of our units? So when it comes to infrastructure, it's a key consideration for developers, because if it's not provided by the government, then the developer, if they are to sell, if they are to have a viable project, then they have to foot the cost of all those facilities. So the idea is to always look for where the infrastructure is there for the incoming. Another thing when it comes to infrastructure,
yes,
the more the infrastructure improves, the higher the property value. So if you're looking for example, we're looking for a house to sell today, and we're probably valuing it at 6 million, and there's no road at the moment, the minute that road begins, the value shoots. So it's very important, one, for the developer to be able to sell, and also for you who is buying, in case you need to resell, or in case you need to access your property or use it for residential purposes, then it becomes very important.
Yes. But just let's clear it like this then this morning. I mean, another trend that we've seen for majority of real estate investors is the ability to own second homes and then turn them into businesses when and how you like. Is that also another trend that the real estate sector, especially for the residential, has to stress on? And how much are you stressing on that at Pazuri?
So when it comes to having a second home, it's usually mainly for your own family usage and also for extra income. This is mainly where we have people coming up with holiday homes, for example. So you have a second home, you don't use it as a family all the time. So when you're not using it, then you get a client to use the facility and you get an income. So one, it becomes a family's accessible, for example, holiday or vacation place, but you also get an income from it when you're not using it. So it's become a very popular trend at the moment.
Yes.
Especially among high end or the high income group, where they're looking for an extra income. At the same time, they are having that facility to themselves. So it's become quite a popular trend at the moment. And if you look at Pazuri, for example, that's also a concept that we're selling. One buys into these houses, they can either use to use them, or alternatively, if they have a home already, they can use that as a holiday home. So you just have the unit, furnish it as you like, and then have it out there in the marketplace where it's available either on a daily basis or for a month or for a year. You're able to get an income from it. One, it serves you by giving you an extra income, and you still maintain ownership of that unit.
Pretty much. Beatrice, thank you very much for taking your time this morning to speak to us here at a Metropole Television.
Thank you for having me, Simba.
Anytime. We take a short break. Once we come back, let's look at those half-year results that we're getting from different corporates in the country right now. But case in point this morning, we're looking at two very interesting stocks. We're looking at Nairobi Business Ventures and WPP Scan Group. We'll have a lot of conversation points on our economic review this morning. Good morning.